you do Texas, like it's like when you mentioned something about Texas, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you did do that.
Yeah. No,
So,
a few different. I like to call it a few different tours in Texas because I actually like lived there, hard lived there, had the house the whole bit, and then just kind of like transient in and out for the last bits of it. But either way, I ended up spending periods of time there.
it's still insane to me. Oh, nice. You added something on the description. Or did I do that? No, you did that. Theory to execution and implementation?
I didn't do that. Did you do that?
I guess I did. I don't know. I thought you did, but could have been. It's been a long.
Are we talking about the title of the video?
Yeah, I mean, no, like in the description it says theory to execution and implementation, but I thought I only added the title.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
Okay, so how should we do this? Should we just like, because I mean, Opus is gonna kind of cut this, so should we say like, I know it's like not supposed to be formal, but it's like, oh, it's like our first like, I don't know, like our first like candid conversation, and today like, I don't know, we're gonna talk a little bit about like branding, marketing versus social media, or should we just like talk about it?
Yeah, I think we should just talk about it. What I was thinking is, because what you and I tend to run into is like, I don't want to call them case studies, but where people don't understand. And so interacting with clients where they don't have a full grasp on what it is, or not even just clients, but conversations with people. So I was wanting to kind of hit on the topics between branding versus marketing versus social media, because I like how you put versus, because it really is, they're not all of the same. They are components of each other, but they are not the same thing. And
Exactly.
so let's call it, clarity around branding versus marketing versus social media.
I love it. Okay, well, let's do it. I mean, I guess like I can kind of start it just because obviously like you are like the person who does everything before like all of like the social media and even like the marketing part. But there is an element to what you do with the branding, because branding is getting to know, like a lot of people think that branding is the designs and the logos and everything else that's like what you can see that's tangible. But even when I was doing my brand with like a brand expert, right, like they were really digging into like who I am and who my core customers are. And I mean, like everything that she sent before we even started on a design was all of the branding. And so I think a lot of people don't understand that there's, a lot of people will say branding and marketing and then marketing and social media. But it's like, even just with branding and marketing, there's so much of a gap that people think is a much thinner line. But you really can't market without the brand, I believe.
No, I completely agree, because the brand really is the identity piece of who you are. It is the piece that comes before the marketing. And I actually tell people this: if we don't get clear on who you are and what position you're actually taking, and I go a step further back, I go, okay, well, what are your values? Because your values inform the mission. And so the mission is, why are you creating this brand in the first place? What is this thing supposed to accomplish? What value do you bring to the market you're trying to bring into, the people that you're trying to connect with? What is it that you're trying to bring into the world? That's your mission. Your mission is kind of the roadmap, or the guiding principles of what you're trying to build, right? That informs your brand. And so many times, like, people go, oh, I'm good on branding, I already have a logo, and we've got our colors, our company colors. I'm like, that's okay, those are elements of your brand, but that's not who you are. That doesn't tell me what I'm gonna feel like working with your company. If I think your logo is cool, but I have no idea what your company's about, then we're even more lost than when we started, right? Because now I'm on like an investigating mission. Like, what are you? And if I have to ask, what are you, you've already lost to a large degree. And people want to skip over that entire part of the identity piece because they don't think that's important, and they want to go straight to marketing. And I've actually advised clients, if you go straight to marketing right now, you're just going to waste money. You're going to waste money. You're going to waste potential. You're going to burn would-be clients on these pieces that you don't even have set up. Because if your marketing works, marketing is transactional. This is the way I look at it, and I'd love to get your take on it. But marketing is transactional, right? Marketing goes out there and connects with the would-be person and says, hey, we offer this thing, this service, this whatever you need. Are you interested in taking a look? And so when that transaction happens and they come back towards you, if you aren't clear on who you are and how to deliver on your brand, then you might as well just waste the money on the marketing. Like you might as well not do it most of the time, because it's not going to have an effective result. And somewhere along the line, and we can get into that in a little more depth, but no, absolutely, the brand is who you are. What can you see, smell, touch, and taste when interacting? And you've heard me say this a lot, right? But those visceral elements are so important in a brand, because branding is all about who are you, how does it feel to interact with you, and do I like the way that feels, or is this not a good fit for me? Because if you don't get that, I don't want to say out of the way, but if you don't get that established first and foremost, your marketing doesn't have anything to connect to. The brand is what your marketing has to bring people back to, and if you can't connect the two, then you've got a broken system right out of the gate. And so many people spend so much effort and mental load and finances on marketing that they really have no business doing yet. My
Yes.
opinion.
No, yes, I agree. And you said a lot of things that I wanted to comment on. So let me see if I get like I want to go with the first thing that popped into my mind, was because it's because the one that I held on to the longest. But when you said, it's like, oh, like I don't need branding. I already have a logo. I would also like to add to that, and I'm glad that I did like our rebrand before we had this conversation, because it also allowed me to understand it so much better than if I hadn't done it. Because the thing is, we didn't even go into the logo piece until she understood who I was, who I served, what I stood for, and everything else that surrounded that, because the colors that she chose for us, and even the type font that she chose for us, and the way that she designed the logo, it all related back to all of the research that she did based off of who I was, who I wanted to target, who I wanted to market to. And we went through reiterations. I mean, there were like so many things that, we talked about, like our ideal client target, like our ideal client profile, and we changed it completely, because I was like, no, like this is not it. Like if you were to ask me, it's like, and I think there's so many entrepreneurs nowadays, or like business owners, who have their branding to where it's like they don't even know. Like if I talk to somebody, a lot of people think, oh, like this is who you serve. But until she really dug deep and she really asked me questions, she put together a persona, and I said, no, that's not it. And then she had to redo the whole thing. That was the only time that I really understood that these are the people that I actually go for. And that was the only time that I really had clarity. And that clarity was so important in the design assets of what she created as well. And so I want to hyper-emphasize that, like, if you say that, like if you're a business owner that says, oh, like I already have branding because I have a logo, I don't need branding because I already have a logo, but you don't know anything else prior to that, you have a symbol that you picked out in the middle of nowhere. That's pretty much, I think, like that what that is, and that was how we operated for the longest time. Like we created a logo for our agency, but it was just that, a logo. I never showed it to anybody. It never got shown to any clients, to any connections, to anybody, because it was just something that represented who I thought we were, but it was just a symbol that we created inside of Canva.
Right. Yeah. Because somewhere along the line, somebody told you you're supposed to. You can't have a company without a logo. So you got to create the logo, and then you build the company around the logo, because the logo is the brand ethos. But it's not. Like I even hear people like, how can I convey my entire message in my logo? And it's like, okay, first of all, you can't. And if you're trying to use the logo to do something it's never meant to do. And so everybody gets hung up on two things: their website and their logo when they're starting whatever they're launching or rebranding. Like, oh, I'm going to spend so much time on the website. I'm going to spend so much time on the logo because it really needs to convey who we are. But if I ask them, well, who are you? It's like crickets. The conversation gets really awkward at that point. I had a client that I was working with, and he gave me his personas, his client personas. And I think I, in a previous conversation, mentioned this to you. And he was like, well, this is who I'm going after. And I was like, okay, well, these are great. And he's like, I said, but we need to get more detailed. And he goes, well, what do you mean? Like, what's not detailed about those? And I said, no, they're great. They're great. They're literally so great. They're textbook. Like, this is what you learn in design school in some form and fashion, whatever aspect you're coming from, is design this kind of client persona. And I said, but I don't know who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. So I actually have no idea if this detailed breakdown of this imaginary person hits and is going to be effective, or it's just what you thought you should do based on what you think you should say, based on what you think the industry wants out of what you're trying to offer. If it's not authentic and like really some shred of authenticity that you're bringing to what you're doing, it's not going to hit. It's not, because you're not going to find the people. You might have some success. I'm not saying that you can't have success without this, but if you want really effective implementation, if you want really effective success, it's something where you kind of can hit and keep pulling on, like you finally grab a hold of that thread and you can keep pulling it. You have to bring yourself to your company first. You have to bring yourself to your brand, and that awareness comes from clarity. Clarity in who you are, what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and then you can better inform the how you're trying to do it.
Yeah. And I think one of the pieces that, now tying it into like the marketing piece, which obviously like marketing is the overall, and then social media is, you know, under that umbrella, right? And so it's not really necessarily branding versus marketing versus social media, because marketing and social media is kind of in some way more connected than even branding and marketing is, at least in my opinion. But there is something that we do for our clients in the beginning, or at least what I look for in our clients in the beginning. And I don't take on any clients who doesn't know who they are, who doesn't know who they serve. If they're brand new, it's much harder for us to say yes to onboarding a client, because if you don't know who you are, it's really hard to market. It's really hard to say, okay, like these are the people that we're going to target. These are the people that we're going to present our service to or our product to. And I think there's so much that people overlook whenever they start a business. I think there's so many things that they overlook when it comes to the piece of what does branding do, that then brings it into marketing. Because I like what you said a while ago as well, where you said, what did you say? You said something along the lines of, you really are only wasting money, or you're wasting money if you're marketing without the other pieces behind it, right? Like, and it is a total waste of money. That's also why we don't onboard clients who doesn't know who they are and what they do, because what we can do for them is a total waste of time, unless you just want pretty designs, right? Unless you literally just want a pretty design. And even then, if you don't have like a cohesive, like, if you don't have a cohesive part of like who you are, it still won't look that good anyway, because whatever you're saying on it, people won't read it. Like, it's literally just meant there to be pretty, right? Like, there's nothing else that we can do to really help you if you don't start with that piece. So I think when I say like branding versus marketing versus social media, I think I just want people to understand that it's like, without branding, your marketing will not work. And a huge part of what we do is, whenever I do client research, whenever we do go on like these strategy audit calls, the first thing that I look for is, who are their ideal target clients, and then also who are, like, who they are, who they're serving, and do they understand what is it that the messaging that they want to bring into the world. Do they understand that? Like, as a founder, as a business owner, not only that, but do their team understand that? Like, does their team who work for them, who work with them, do they understand that? And do their clients understand that? And I think there's just so many things about branding versus marketing that I think people overlook when it comes to really having that understanding of, okay, like, when you're starting from somewhere, and don't get me wrong, like, we didn't start with the branding piece, and we didn't even really start, at least for our agency, we didn't really start with a marketing piece either. We started with the skill set that I could bring into the table, right? Like, these are the things that I can do for somebody. But at some point, as you're growing, I think you then need to start thinking, okay, like, I can serve, especially if you can serve all types of clients. Like, I can serve this client and this client and this client. But the thing is, why would you want to? Because it doesn't necessarily work. Like, I think if you specialize in something, it will allow you to hyper focus and hyper target your marketing to a better niche specific audience, so that you can get their attention. Does that make sense?
No, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah. And so yeah, like, I really think that even though social media is only a small part of like the entire marketing funnel, I do see all of our clients, at least the clients that we have in our agency, like I see all of them being able to utilize all of those other marketing channels, whether it's SEO, pay-per-click, PPC, email marketing. You can see them utilize all of that, and it runs like a well-oiled ecosystem. Like it really does run like in their own ecosystem the way it's supposed to run, because they have their branding piece. We don't have a single client in our agency that doesn't know who they are. Even when people don't have a very good logo, even when people don't have, like one of our clients, I don't even think he really has a logo. He doesn't. And his colors are all over the place. He's very, very video heavy. But he knows who he serves, and he knows who he targets. He knows who he is. He knows he wants to be an expert. He knows the tone of voice that he wants to do. He wants to know, he knows the community that he wants to build. And that's more than enough for us, rather than just, hey, like, I'm just starting a company. I have this logo. I have this website. Like you said, people focus on their logo and their websites. And then they still don't know who they serve, what they do, or even like hyper focus on just a specific aspect of component of what it is that people are buying from them.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. And what's interesting too, and you touched on this, is just because the owner or the founder has an idea too, does that mean the team or everybody else understands what they do, right? And so it's not just team organization and who's wearing what hat and what responsibilities go under that hat, right? It's also culture. The culture piece is the internal aspect of the brand, right? Because people go, well, what's the difference between culture and branding? And I say not a lot, actually. They're two sides of the same coin, and that culture is internal. You got to know. So the mission informs the culture. That's the next piece, and I didn't mention that earlier. Is what culture are you building? Because the culture is going to completely convey the brand, and the culture is internal. It's how everybody feels about, and it's how everybody relates to it and understands what target they're aiming at, right? What are we trying to accomplish, and who are we trying to accomplish it for, and how do we do that? How do we deliver on whatever our product and or service is? All right, so you got to be really clear on the culture, and then the brand aspect of that is just culture conveyed externally. And so a lot of times you'll run into these companies that, well, I should say you hear stories about, and I know you've probably run into them, I've run into them, where they have a really ambitious brand ideal that they want to convey to the world, but internally they are a hot mess. And it's not just criticism, it's, the leadership, it's not supporting what they say they actually are aiming at, and it's felt throughout entire, the whole crew in operations is like, yeah, okay, we say that, but we don't do that. And that it's only a matter of time before that gets conveyed outwardly. So what's happening on the inside is definitely going to show up on the outside. And you don't have to have everything polished. Like you had mentioned, the client that doesn't have everything in place. Honestly, I think that's okay, because authenticity is so much more important than polish, as long as you're clear on how it is you're authentically showing up. Some of the big ones that everybody knows, because somebody's like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, okay, well, take Coca-Cola, for instance. Love them, hate them, drink it, don't drink it, doesn't matter, right? Whatever they figured out where they stand. And the biggest competitor to Coke is Pepsi, right? But you'll never hear Coke talk about how they're better than Pepsi. You rarely ever even hear a Coke ad talk about the flavor of their own product, right? They talk about how you're going to feel when you drink it, right? Share a Coke with a friend. It's the feel-good company. They figured out that they're the feel-good cola. And that's really all they push. They don't really push anything else. So all of their ads, all of their marketing is reflected on the brand that you're going to feel really good if you drink our product, right? And you're part of a community, you're part of that human element. And so people love that. Same with like Patagonia, right? If performance-wise, and somebody could probably tell me the difference, but between like Patagonia, Columbia, and North Face, right? All outdoor performance wear gear brands. Patagonia figured out a core ethos of what they're actually trying to do, and they carry that core authenticity absolutely down to the foundations of their brand and beyond. Like they're still doing what they said they set out to do when they started in 1960, 70 something. I don't even remember. And so there's like no question at this point. And so even if you're not even really big on that, or you're not big into outdoor conservation or environmental issues, you know, you buy the jacket that you think looks really sick, and you're like, I'm doing my part. Like you feel really good about wearing that thing, and you're like, I'm still doing my part. Like it says Patagonia right here. I'm, you know, and it's so it doesn't even matter how minimal or how deep you actually run with that brand. You understand how you relate to it, and so your client that can show up authentically and have that authenticity is actually miles ahead of further on their branding than they even probably realize. And what's interesting, you mentioned social media too, and I hadn't thought of it in this terms till we started talking, but social media connects to both the marketing and the brand in the sense that you could use social media for your marketing, absolutely, but you're also having to create a brand and show up there in a space that people understand what it's like to watch your content or read your content. And they're going to do so because it hits a certain way and it feels a certain way. And I even, as I was talking about this, or thinking about this, I was trying to think of examples of just random people that aren't even companies, but have built their own brand presence on the various social media platforms. And it's so funny because I was scrolling through a playlist the other day that I was looking for something that just kind of hit with the project I was working on. And this like jazz song popped up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the soundtrack to so and so's videos. I didn't even like, never would I have ever connected that, except his videos hit a certain way when he's creating content, and I really like his vibe, and it's very unique to him. And I couldn't even exactly explain what it is, but I know how it feels. And then when I heard that song, it triggered all of those things, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is that song. I had no idea. And all of a sudden, I could hear this guy narrating his video in the background, like mentally. And I was like, wild. It's just so wild how much of a visceral experience your branding is and how that needs to connect to your marketing. And you can do it through different channels and you can do it through social media. But if you don't have those pieces set up, then, you know, how do you make that more effective? And people want to skip the middle and go, well, let's just get to the marketing because I need to make money. It's like, oh, that's not going to get off the ground. I'll tell you right now, that is, you might have a little bit of success, but that is not sustainable. You're going to burn out. You're going to hemorrhage your marketing budget so fast, and your money will be hemorrhaging out of your company. Because I literally worked on a project like that, where when they got to me, they said, we need more marketing. I said, why? Well, we need more clients. And I said, why? Well, because we don't have enough money to spend on the ads to support our sales. And I said, well, this doesn't make sense. So I kept asking why. I said, who are you marketing to? And he said, everybody. And I said, what are you doing? And so it's so funny because actually, like a year prior, I was getting this company's ads in my social media feeds. And then I, you know, flash forward a year through a referral, I took a consult with him and I said, look, I'm getting your ads. I'm not your client. I am not even close to your ideal client. If you're spending on my, you know, client architect to try to get people, like, you're wasting so much money. And so, but they didn't get that because in their mind, they were taught marketing equals revenue, or marketing equals sales, sales equal revenues, and you just keep feeding that machine and it grows. But it doesn't. It doesn't. You have to have purpose behind what you're doing to make it effective.
I love that. And I love that take because I know we don't do ads, right? But I want to touch on ads a little bit when it comes to marketing and even social media, because we have done ads before, and I just decided to focus strictly on organic. But the on organic, it's already so much easier to get warm leads and sales for clients if you have a very, very niche specific target industry, right? That's really the only way that we actually get leads for clients is the more niche that they are, the more likely we are to get leads for them. The more broad they are, it's more impressions, more brand awareness, etc. It's really hard to hyper target on organic social media already. But when it comes to burning money, in ads, there's no faster way to burn money than targeting literally everyone. Like, yes, the wider of a net that you cast, the more you're hemorrhaging money, because it takes so long for the algorithm to understand, like, you know, the testing and all the things that goes behind it. There's just so much to that if you can't find the person that you are directly speaking to, you're absolutely right. Like, they are just wasting money. I would never even recommend someone to run ads if they don't know who their specific target client is. So I absolutely agree with that. That was the first thing that I definitely wanted to bring up because it was the last thing that you said, and I thought it was hilarious because there's so many people that come to me for like strategy audits. And I'm just like, yeah, but like you don't even need me. Like you're so far from needing me or even anyone kind of maybe even in the marketing space that like maybe you should take like 10 steps backwards, right? And I think there should like a line to it. It like I said, it's like branding and then marketing. So usually if someone like in our circle is not like all of our clients are already running Google ads. Like if you're thinking organic social media is gonna be your main lead generation, you are talking to the wrong person. Like you should not be talking to me at all. You should never should nowhere even be close to talking to me because
Don't even talk to me about this.
yeah, I mean, like if you're relying on organic social media as a company, right? Like not as a solopreneur, but as a company for your
Mhm.
main lead generation, to me, it's insane. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Like every single person, every single founder, every single company that we have that does have a team, because we really only work with people who have teams. So I'm speaking directly to them. Organic social media, I believe, would almost always come after you generate leads and sales through other marketing channels. And you really can't have that if you don't have that branding piece.
Mhm.
Which is I think why we titled like our session in the way of like um, uh, branding versus marketing versus social media. But I also want to highlight your point because you said something about, you actually said two things that I want to touch on. One is branding and marketing, like social media actually touches on both. And you're right. Like with all of the visuals that we do and all of the storytelling that you do and the community building that you do, it does touch on both. Like I will not take on a client who doesn't know who they are, which is a huge part of the branding piece. But then also like social media is part of marketing, and I really urge people, like if you do have a company and we are only doing your company page, that you do have other marketing channels before you hire us, because if you're relying on us solely for leads, sure, we get leads, but a huge part of that is also like being brought in by the other ads that you're already running, like the PPC that you're running. And actually, just to give you like a very quick example, I asked one of my clients to write me a testimonial. And you know, like branding is kind of like you do it in the beginning, you kind of understand who you are, and I think you should review it at some point, and I would love your thought on that. But I think it just gets forgotten. It's like, oh, like we don't know who like they literally asked me like, do you have like this so they created like multiple logo sets, right? And there's one where there's like just it's just like a specific color. And they were like, do you have that? And I was like, no, nobody ever gave it to me. But I'm like, who did your brand? Like, wouldn't they have it? It's like I don't understand like why you're asking me for it. But when they did the testimonial for our agency, they were like, oh, like they do such great at like branding our things. And I think I understood what they meant. It's like the brand, it's like we do a great job of like telling their story, telling their brand, like making
Mhm.
their visuals look really good. But we didn't create the brand. Like we like I couldn't even have like done like even half the job that whoever this person like they went to. I couldn't have done half that job because we don't do branding. Like it is so separate from what we do in social media that it's like, but the fact that she even said the word like they do a really good job. Like I know what she meant, but in the way that she said it, it was like um it was very much, there could be an implication that almost says like that we do their branding, that we did their branding.
Mhm.
And I think there needs to be a separation of that, because social media people do not do the initial branding. Yes, like we take that brand and we give it out to the world. Like we take that brand and we showcase it to the world. We tell the world who
Mhm.
you are. I mean, at least the world that you're trying to um the ecosystem that you're building, right? Like it's not the world, but what I mean is like the target audience that you have, the clients that you have, like your mini world inside of social media. But we did not create the branding. We did not design the colors. We did not decide who your target market is. We did not decide like what your messaging is or what your story is. We just amplify that into like who you want to be, and giving that to the people who are listening to you. So
I think you just hit on a huge point that people don't realize. One, they treat their brand like it's just something on a checklist that needs to be created in the whole how do I start a business and what they found on the void of what the internet tells you you should do. And so, you know, ChatGPT creates a checklist of here's how you build a business. And so build a brand is on it, get a brand guidelines. They're like, oh yeah, we got branding guidelines. Check, that's done. And then they put it in whatever folder, in whatever file, and it sits on whatever digital shelf it sits on for until somebody needs it. And then it's like, oh yeah, we'll get you the brand collateral. We had that created a while ago, right? And I think what's interesting about what you just said is the misconception that the brand is not a living thing. It is a living thing, and it's an iterative process. And you mentioned that earlier, how you take several iterations when you're trying to figure out what the brand is and how it relates to your would-be clients, because it needs to be a living thing. Your brand needs to be living every single day. And so what you're doing is you're actually implementing that. You're taking what the brand was created to be, and then you're putting it out there to the people and saying, hey, this is, so you're bringing it in front of you and actually having that brand interaction at that point, or creating an opportunity for that brand interaction, which one might say is marketing, right? It is and it isn't. That's kind of a gray area, I guess, the brand interaction, because you do interact through marketing with your brand. You interact on several other touch points too. But it's a living, breathing thing, and it needs to be revisited often. The same with your mission statement, because your mission is what the guiding principles for your brand are. And if you're not taking a look at your mission constantly, and I'm not talking about like every week at the staff meeting, because that's just a waste of time, but you know, maybe once a quarter or at least once a year, like, please, let's revisit the brand and the mission and make sure that both of those are still aligned with what we're actually trying to do. I know for myself, it's taken several iterations, you know, to kind of, there's what I thought I was going to do, there's what I was convinced the world needed, and then there's what I ended up, you know, breaking into. And then once I was into that, there was one, you know, you change and you morph that into what it actually ends up being. And we're ever growing, ever evolving. I don't think you can point to a single successful company out there and be like, they're still exactly the same as they were when they started. Maybe some of their core principles, like I mentioned Patagonia earlier, their core principles haven't changed, but they grow and evolve, and it's an iterative process. And so it's the same with our brand guidelines, because we create these guidelines and we're like, we're set it and forget it. It's like, no, you can't, because the brand should be a living thing. It's not just an element, a visual element like the logo or the tagline or the website. You know, the website needs to be ever changing and ever evolving. And people that do SEO know this. You have to stay relevant. You have to constantly be changing it, because the algorithms and everything else. The algorithm, like the buzzword of the century right there, is ever growing and changing and learning, and there's new things to look at and focus on there. Why don't we do that with our brands? And it's not that we want to be a moving target, but get clear on what you're doing. And if you're finding that there's some clarity or there's some pain points that aren't hitting, adjust that. But we don't. We're like, well, we're this company, and instead of changing ourselves to show it more authentically, we try to change our target audience to better align with our brand. And I don't mean that proactively. There is an element that you can do that absolutely proactively, but instead it's like, well, the world just doesn't get what we do, so we need to change the world. It's like, or maybe your messaging isn't hitting. Maybe your understanding of what you actually do isn't quite there. Maybe you don't have the clarity in the positioning that you think you do. And so it's not a them problem, it's a you problem. Call is coming from inside the house.
I think you touched on a very, very good point, because I do want to add though, so we really are, I mean, we have a few clients where it is a little bit more broad, but a lot of our clients are very niche specific. Like they really, their service only targets a very, very specific set of clients. And I've mentioned this to you before, right? But one advantage I think that they have is that because you mentioned the word it should always be evolving, and I agree with that. I think that all parts of what we've talked about right so far is, and I'll go back to my point, it's like all the things that we've talked about so far, branding, marketing, social media, always evolving. I mean, the algorithm, right, like you said, buzzword of the century, but it is always evolving as well. Like, I mean, it literally just evolved from last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it just changed. And so And I'm not kidding. Like Instagram is releasing so many features, like new features, new algorithms. It's insane. Like it's insane. Like how much you have to keep up with just with social media in general. But
Yeah.
I love that you said like it does need to be ever evolving. But I think the clients that I do serve have one advantage, and it's that the thing that they've built from the beginning is still who they are almost to this day. And I've had clients that have had their business from 5 years. So that's probably like some of our newest clients, about 5 years, 3 to 5 years, I think, 4 to 5 years. And some of the oldest are like over 40 years. And it
Nice.
is insane. Just like they just really know who they are, even when they've reiterated because of the service that they provide. Like they can only provide this service. And so you can only really stand for so much. Like let's just put it that way. And maybe I'm wrong because obviously like I definitely I'm more, like I said, amplifying their branding rather than creating their branding. But just from what
Mhm.
I see on our end, you know, it's like for me and same for you, as you've said, I reiterated so much. Like there were so many things that we stood for, like so many things that we stood for that I wanted to highlight. Like I wanted to be this and I wanted to be that and I wanted to be that. And it would just be so many that when I actually talked to our brand, the brand expert that we hired, I was like, I don't know what I want, but I'm just gonna tell you everything because it's been all of this throughout the years that I've reiterated and reiterated. And I wanted to, you know, like our initial thing was we do it for impact driven companies. But the thing is, it sounded like I was just targeting like nonprofits. So I told her like
Mhm.
what that meant. And then, you know, and then we iterated and iterated and iterated even more to where like we finally got down to the thing. But it's also because I have a very, very wide service. Like I can service literally anybody at any time as long as you have a company. And even then I could do people if I really wanted to. Who
Mhm.
doesn't have companies, right? Like it could just be I could manage an influencer account. And so it's also
Personal
being
branding.
really, sorry.
Personal branding in that aspect, right? It doesn't have to be a company or an entire service or product or interaction. You're just trying to convey and communicate who someone is. You could even take it down to the personal level. I love that you touched on that.
Exactly. And so I think being very clear about that, but I think one of, like I said, the advantages that our clients have had is when you have a very, very specific service and you want to be exactly this, it kind of gives you a better light to follow. Like it gives you
Mhm.
like that better like North Star to just be able to say, okay, like this is who we serve, this is who I want it to be. And you're very clear on that. And those are the clients that I really love to work with as well. And as I'm sure those are the clients that you want to get them there. Like your job is to kind of get them there. And my job is to love them because they really are. Like I think, you know, you have the buzzword of the century, but niche is another one. To be honest,
Yeah.
like niche is another buzzword to where it's like, should you niche down, should you not? And I think it's a business owner that's up to you. But I think from our conversation today, and maybe it's just something that's been repeatedly bashed by so many people, you know, that there are people now that are anti-niche. But all I'm saying is that if you're marketing something through social media, through ads, through pay-per-click, through whatever, SEO, it is much easier to reach people if you have a very, very specific target audience and you know exactly who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And you can actually say no to people who don't fit that. And, you know, a lot of
Mhm.
people in the beginning, so this was only when I started the agency. When I was freelancing, I did take on everything. I mean, I was everything there. I wasn't even just social media. I did copywriting for websites. I did copywriting for like Airbnb sites. Like, I mean, I did everything. Like you name it. I did social media as well, obviously, like for various people, either person, another agency, content creators, you name it. So that was when I experimented, and I do think that there's merit to experimenting with who you are. But when I
Mhm.
started the agency and I went through all of this, I was just like, okay, like I never want to work with this set of people ever, ever, ever again. And I just kind of like narrowed it down. There are some people I will just never, ever, ever
Yeah.
work
That's
with.
that's important to know too.
Super important to know. And when I started the agency, you know, a lot of people told me, oh, it must be, and don't get me wrong, like if you have family, put food on the table, I understand. But from my perspective, I had this mindset from the day I started the agency. I said, I will not say yes to a client that I know does not fit what I've already gone through. Who I know, like, you know, and then it got narrower and narrower from there. And I think like the more narrow I've gone, the more clear, like I've just really understood, okay, like this is really what we stand for and this is what we do. That can really help people. Like the thing is, like, yeah, I could take on an e-commerce client, but I don't really believe in most products, to be honest. I'm such a minimalist. And two, it's like I don't actually know how to market a product. I'm better at marketing services. I just am. I've just always been. And so it's like, I think it's also just like narrowing down for yourself helps so much when it comes to just talking to people. And I've probably turned down more clients that I do potential sales calls for, even when they say I want to work with you. Even when they say I really want to work with you, is there some way we can work this out? And that's why I've started to have partners, because I was just like, no, I just really don't do XYZ. And that's just out of principle because I know who we can help, and that's also why we've had just like so much client retention and how we can service our clients to the best of like their abilities as well. And so, and I just wanted to touch on that because I think like, yes, niche is the buzzword of the century as well, alongside algorithms, but I do think there is a merit to it whenever you're thinking about your branding, which is really who you serve, who you target, what you stand for, who you are, more so than your logo and more so than, and I know that this has been talked about many, many times. I think I just want to hyper emphasize it in terms of your marketing. The reason why you want to boil it down is so that you aren't wasting so much money and so much time and so much energy trying to explain who you are to so many people when you can go super narrow and hyper target this specific space, and your marketing will for sure work better just from research and experience, and just knowing that.
I think we could probably have a whole conversation about the word niche alone and cover so much of that. But what I thought was so interesting about what you covered and so valuable, and to tie it back to the brand and the marketing. So you covered the marketing piece of how you can be so much more effective with the marketing of it. But what you were talking about niching down in your own business, as you were sharing that, I was like, you are also resonating with your specific brand promise that you have identified within what you want the agency to be and do, and how it shows up, how it hits, and how it feels to interact. And part of the branding side of that is that authenticity piece that I've been talking about. It's that, you know, like you've heard me say it, what's the spark? What's the spark inside of you that connects with what you're trying to do and who you're trying to do it for, right? It has to be something that you're passionate about. And you're like, hey, I am just not willing to compromise on this because I know that that's not my best version. That's not where you're best served showing up in that area. And so I'm going to do us both a favor and say, no, I'm sorry. That's not authentic to the brand experience that I want you to have in who we are. So you got really clear on yourself and how it resonated authentically with you, which is arguably brand, right? Brand and culture. And in doing so, saying, okay, I need to be able to be more effective for my clients. The experience they're going to have is they're going to have a better experience with me because I'm going to be able to target better their clients because they know who they are. They know what they're trying to do. They've already gone through this, let's call it self-discovery phase. And they are able to niche down, and because they're able to niche down, I can actually make their marketing now more effective. So it's twofold, right? Because they understand their brand, and you understood your brand early on and saying, hey, this is an absolute non-negotiable fundamental piece of our mission, our culture, and the brand that I'm building. And it is these clients, for whatever reason, for whatever demographic, aren't a good fit for us. And we're not a good fit for them, because it's not going to be optimal results for either of us, and I don't want to compromise service. So the best service I can possibly give them, even to the extent of saying no. And that's a huge brand promise. Like that, and people don't always take it that way. They're like, no, I want to work with you. You have what I need. And you're like, I really don't. I'm really not optimal. You're better fit with this partner that specializes in what you do. And I love the contrast between you and I because we're very symbiotic in the way we work, in that I thrive in that pre-identity piece. I love that. I love working with people in that. And you're like, I can't be effective until you know who you are, where you stand, who you're talking to, and I'm going to help you understand how we go talk to them, right? So I'm everything that is before that line. You don't know who you are. You think your logo is your business. You think if I build it, I mentioned this, the field of dreams, and accidentally made myself super old in referencing this, but the field of dreams analogy, if you build it, they will come, but they won't. They won't. It's not because you built a website. It's not because you have the best logo in the world. Those are not brands. You don't understand who you are or what message you're trying to bring. And so, like I said at the start of the conversation, if you dump whatever little fuel you have into your marketing, you're going to burn out real quick because you don't actually have anything that you can sustain. Let's build something that can support the weight of the company that you're trying to build and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's so smart. What you mentioned when first starting the agency, you're like, I freelanced everywhere. I got a taste of everything. I know exactly what I don't want. So I'm only going to build towards what I do want because now I know who I am. And now I know who my customers are. And because I knew who my customers are, now I'm able to actually work with them because they know who their customers are. Like I call myself B2B to C. I work with businesses who we're targeting their end client, but I'm that pre-B2B to C part. People always want to put you in one or the other box, right? Are you B2B or are you B2C? I'm like, I'm B2B to C. People are like, I don't know what that means. It's because nobody knows what B2B or B2C specifically means either, because somebody is somebody else's client no matter what. But it's that stage going all the way back. Can we figure out who that is? Can we figure out who your brand is trying to talk to? Can we figure out who you are as a company? And I love working on those first look iterative processes. And a lot of times I'm working with really established companies too. They're just hitting a point where they are having trouble growing and they're not sure why. And when I tear it apart, it's because when I get right down to what's broken, it's because they didn't actually build on the fundamentals of knowing who they were, what they bring, and how they help their clients. And that creates the value interaction that they are missing in the first place. So they're like, oh, I do such and, I do this vocation, so I'm this company. And so we need all of the clients that fall under that company label. Like that, there's really only like 10 major buckets of services and industries out there if we were really going to get broad and put people into categories when it comes to service-based businesses. It's like you can't just say that. I'm an architect, so I need everybody who needs designs. Like that's not, no, there's like 20 different, there's probably way more than that, but off the top of my head, there's like 20 different subcategories that you need to figure out which of those you fit into. And then we're going to go deeper onto that. And so niching is actually kind of a natural process that I think people don't even realize that they need to do in order to be more effective. I do think if you don't know who you are yet, then you shouldn't niche down. You should do exactly like you were saying, go freelance or get burned, trying to appeal to everybody to see who you don't appeal to, because that is an important part of the process. But you can't sustain that. Because if you have a brand promise that isn't showing up, like if Coke was like, hey, we're the feel-good company today, and tomorrow we're just like hardcore edge, like that doesn't do anything for anybody. They're like, whoa, I don't know how to identify with this. And they're a product, but they're not a product. Like they're kind of the bridge to they're a product, but they're not a product company. They are commerce. And I agree with you. Like commerce, it's hard. How do we drive sales numbers and how do we give them that's where sales gets a bad reputation, but we should save that for another conversation too. Because I could go off on that.
Oh, me too. I really don't do ecom, but you brought up a really, really good point to where, I do want to, because we talked about niche, and I think that should be one of our topics is niche, because I can also say a lot about it. But I think you made a very good point of like, it took me a very long time to figure that out. Like we didn't hire like any like brand person until 3 years later, like a full official one. Because we didn't necessarily need it. I mean, all of our clients, for some reason, I've never shown a website. I've never shown a portfolio. I was just honestly selling myself. I would just talk to them and, I mean, I also had my freelancing profile. So those were bringing a lot of that in, and referrals, obviously. But yeah, it's like we didn't need it, and I think like a lot of people, it's like, when it comes to your brand, I think sometimes people are like, oh, we need to have a brand media. And this goes back to like the logo that we were creating like in the beginning, right? Like just because people tell you you need to have a logo, you need to have a website to be like a legitimate business, but you don't necessarily need to. And I think you touched on like a very good point of like, I think some people are so afraid to be wrong. Like some people are so afraid to serve the wrong people. That they don't do it. Like they just like, okay, let's say we just say we're for everyone, and then they're so afraid to say, okay, like this was not a good fit for me and it's bringing in money, so I'm just gonna keep casting out wide nets. And I think one of the things that I am proud of doing for myself, I will say, and only because I've talked to other people and they're like, how did you do that? And this is how I did it. So for anybody who's curious, it's like, I really did like iterated and tested. I worked with every single person you could possibly think of for social media. And that's also how I can do strategy audits for everybody, because I have done it. We've done it for thought leaders, content creators, e-com, well, products, and not necessarily full e-com, but because I just knew e-com was just completely off the table. I think I've known that from the very beginning. But it comes, yeah.
It's a whole, if we even want to have that conversation, it's a whole different conversation.
It's a whole different conversation for sure. But it's like, I think people are so afraid to say, okay, I'm gonna try it out as I'm starting out. This was not the right fit, so I'm not gonna do that anymore. I think people are also afraid to fire clients, which comes from your brand, like your brand, your ethos, because you mentioned the word ethos a while ago as well, and I love that word. It's like people are so afraid to put their foot down and have non-negotiables for themselves, which comes from your brand, so that you can properly market. The thing is, in the beginning, I already knew who I didn't want to work with, but it got even smaller and smaller and smaller to where now I really am a lot clearer of like who we serve, than we were before. And I think the narrower that you get, it's like the more that you empower yourself, like as a company, like especially with a team, to get very clear of like what's important to your clients. Because I think, as I've mentioned to you before, even touching on social media now, the clients that we serve, they really care about the professionalism of it all, right? Like they target such a hyper specific target audience that what they care about is reaching those people. And people ask me all the time, how do you know you're reaching the right people? And that's because whenever we put out like engagements, or we look at like the stats, or just any comments or anything like that, some of it is pretty manual. Sometimes I'll look through and actually see who's commenting and like what their titles are. And so if we're trying to, let's say, reach like people in the healthcare field, you can tell, like, there's a lot of people in the healthcare space, they have like the end names like MD or DO or NP or whatever. Like they have those like title names, and all of the people that are commenting or liking our things or DMing us are from that space. Like it is very, very hyper targeted. And so I think that there is so much advantage to really, and even for us, we're not that niche specific. Like if I told you like, okay, like we target people who have a very niche specific focus, target industry, that's still not very specific. But the people that we serve, like they can really tell you, we target this subset specific of the population, and that's it. And that's it. Like it is so specific. And I think there's so much advantage to, I think they can easily put their foot down. They can easily have non-negotiables because of the service or product that they chose. But I think it's business owners or companies who can serve a variety of people, unless you really are there to really hyper target everyone, unless you are like a Google, an Apple, yeah, or a chat GPT, like OpenAI. I do think you should be narrowing down, because I think there's just so much to that.
No, that's such a great point. Apple, Google, Google is something that, I mean, the idea is literally to get everyone to use it, right? So their target user is very multifaceted, but it's everybody at the same time. They just have to figure out what everybody is. No, it's so true. Well, and we get so hung up on needing all of these different pieces, right? And keeping it simple, I think, is so important for a brand. And you mentioned Apple. One of the original, like the biggest failures in Apple was listing all of their features. Steve Jobs took out, I think it was like 5 pages on the Wall Street Journal when they launched the first Apple, and were like, hey, these are all the features. This is what it does. And sales tanked. Like, people are like, we don't know what to do with this, right? Because computers at that point were so complicated anyway that everybody's like, wow, you just spoke technical engineer to me, and I don't know what that means, right? And so after he went off and did what he did and formed Pixar and had success doing that, he understood how to tell a story. And that's branding, right? And telling a story and what you're doing. And so he came back with the idea of think different. Apple was made simple at that point. And at that juncture, everybody was still competing for technical, and he was like, think different. That's all it said. Like, I think he took out a billboard or something. I don't remember the exact case study in this. But the whole idea was just, no, we're going to make this a simple experience for you. And so we want people who want a simple entry into the world of technology, right? Going back that far. I think it's still true today. You're absolutely right. Unless you're OpenAI or you're Google or you're Apple, you're not trying to appeal to everybody. And even they, well, OpenAI and Google are probably trying to appeal to everybody, but even Apple has, you know, a specific brand loyalty that's like, oh, I just use Apple because it's simpler. And at this point, I don't even know, I'm behind, but I think whatever version of iPhone I'm on, everything switches to the next iPhone. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay with iPhone, right? Because I say that it's simple.
Yeah.
It works for me. It's already connected to all of my other ecosystems. I'm good with it, right? And is it brand loyalty? Not necessarily, but subconsciously, yeah, I guess it is. If I really break down to it, I love it. I think there's so many different facets. So brand is who you are. Marketing is what you do. Connect with who you're trying to reach, right? It's transactional. So brand is just the essentials of how you exist and how it feels to interact with somebody, right? You could say a brand is like a personality. You know, we all say, you know, oh, have you met so and so? And they're like, oh yeah, I love that person because they're just so like bright and fun, and their personality is just so boom boom boom, like super upbeat, right? And they're like, yeah, I love that about them. You talk to another person and you say the same thing, hey, do you know so and so? And they're like, yeah, they're just like a little too high energy for me, like super nice person, but I just can't be that on all the time. Because that brand, if we're talking in terms of personality, doesn't hit for that person. So that's why not everybody is just automatically friends with everybody else, right? Why do we think our companies are any different? I fall into this category, so everybody needs to work with me. That is not how that works out. So your brand is the personality of who you are. And then your marketing is the conversation you're going to have with somebody. That's the way I think of it, you know? And so people are like, oh, I need you to help with my marketing. I'm like, I can help set you up for your marketing, but I never claim to be a marketer specifically. And it's not that I don't play in that world, and it's not that I don't know enough to be dangerous. I do know the fundamentals and the ins and outs of it. But we're going to tee everything up, and then I'm going to put you in the capable hands of somebody who does marketing as a specialty, who is niched into that and says, all right, like you're exactly like you're doing and what you're talking about. I need to figure out how to make you the most effective I can make you with the pieces that we have to work with. And if I feel like I have enough pieces, then we're going to do that. That's when you're ready. That's when you're ready for marketing. Otherwise, I tell people, whatever you're going to spend on your ad budget, just go ahead and Venmo me, and we'll just call it a day, right? Because I'll do something with the money, and you won't have just lit it on fire. And we're going to keep working on your company. So it works out.
I love that. That's so good. I love it. Yeah, you can just spend me the money. That it is very true. And I just want to add, like, on the last piece, because I think you summarized it very, very well, the difference between branding and marketing. But I also just want to say, with the social media piece, it's you actually executing the storytelling, right? Like, it's like you have the story that you now know for yourself, and maybe the team knows for how you do it. But social media it actually does. Social media is actually like what gives that brand that life, right? Because like you said, like it can just be stored on a shelf somewhere. But I think it needs to be embodied with you as the founder, with the team that you work with, the team that you onboard. They need to understand like what it is that you care about the most, what's the ethos of the company, and all of the things that you've decided that this is going to be the North Star, the guiding light for what everyone is going to follow, right? Like what everybody is going to feel, to do, to be who you are. But it's also when you add, because a lot of people, ask, it's like, when should you do social media, or like, should you do social media, and I think that that's your own choice. But we do live in an attention economy, which is also something that I would love to talk about with you at some point. It's living in the
Yeah,
attention
sure.
economy. But we live in that economy now where attention, even at this moment, is still underpriced. But it is the most expensive thing that you can ask from somebody. And I do think that if you execute your branding correctly and you really dig down to like who it is that who you are, and I think it takes time. I don't think it'll just come to you, but I think having the help of an expert to really say, okay, like these are where I'm confused. These are all the things that are swirling in my head. Help it make sense. Help it be cohesive for us, for our company, for myself. Helps a lot. But once you get clear on that, you're burning less money on marketing. But also when it comes to the social media piece, I think that there are a couple of other ways that you can tell your story, but there's not a single place right now where you can have media, where you're creating content and be able to engage in a way that social media does. And I think that's what I love about it, because you can then really show people who you are, because you can do so many things with it. Like there's just so much content that you can put out and get people to know you. But more than that, it's they can engage back with that content. That's the one thing that social media, like piece wise, especially organic, that you just don't have with all the other marketing channels. So I do just want to add that like last piece, because that is how you showcase your brand, is once you start interacting with people as well. Yes, there are the billboards for your branding, but your branding is living. Like your branding is who you are, how people get to know you, how you react to them as much as how they react to you. And I think there's not a better place to showcase everything that you stand for than social media. At least that's in my very, very personal opinion, but I think there's truth to it as well, like as far as like from an objective standpoint.
No, I think you're right. I really do. And so if somebody was to ask the question, is social media branding or marketing? I think the answer is just yes, because it is. It's branding and marketing. Marketing by definition is creating awareness, right? It's transactional. Branding is also being able to introduce yourself and who you are and meet the people. So they're all kind of living together, and I think social media offers that dynamic opportunity that you just illustrated, that it can exist in both worlds for both purposes simultaneously, and arguably it really should, based on what you just said. Like it really should, because it's a way to interact with people, marketing, but it's also a way for people to get to know your brand and who you are, branding, right? And so vital. And yeah, we should also talk about the attention economy, not right now, but that's so true, because I think we forget too, because I hear this a lot, and I've heard this over the years, like, well, just go viral on social media and build your brand. It's like, what? That's like, if that was just a switch we could flip, don't you think everybody would be doing it? And then if everybody was doing it, then we're all just noise. So yeah, the attention, we should talk about that more, because I think there has to be, on social media, there has to be a reason to care. So branding gives you a reason to care, your marketing gives you a reason to take notice, right? And even in this conversation, whoever sees this, I hope that they find some value, because I don't just assume that people are obligated to watch anything I put out in the world. As much as I may love that, and I've taken some crash and burns and on social media where I'm like, man, this is gold, and the 6 other people that saw it thought it was great too. But am I getting past that 200 view mark? No, right? I went down the TikTok rabbit hole for a while, and that's a whole different kind of aspect and topic, and because there's a whole different subset of people that live there. But nobody's obligated to pay any attention to what you're doing, especially now. There's so many options and so much variety. And so, what do you think about? I was wanting to get your take on this. When people say, "Well, just build your social media following," and then it's easier to sell to those people. It's like that. I have my thoughts on that, but I'm just curious, like on face value, how does that hit you when somebody? Do you ever hear that? I'm sure you hear that.
I'm very, yes, I have heard that. Not necessarily from my clients, which is a good thing.
No. It's just the noise out there in general. Like I keep calling it the void that is the internet. Like you get on the forums, how to build a business. Well, just build a social media following. It's like that's potentially harder than just building a business the old-fashioned way. Like let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I'll touch on this point a little bit, but I do want to touch on this point on a bigger scale because it is exactly what we do. And I think it could be a whole topic in and of itself, but I will touch on it a little bit, touching on it from both perspectives. One is from before and now. So before, followers mattered a little bit more than they do now. I have heard that more from people before as well. One thing that we really tell everyone is, like the clients that we onboard, is that, and it's such a cliche to say because a lot of people have said this as well, versus like some people have said like build your followers. It's about the same thing, is that your followers actually do not matter that much. It's really just the person who is reading your post and then making sure that they're the right person, right? Because the thing is, if you have all of the followers in the world, and it's the same goes for impressions, right? Like let's say your video blow ups, because we were talking about virality as well. If all of this blew up and you have all of these numbers, but you're only targeting a very specific, like let's say you're targeting social media marketing agency owners, let's say me, right? Like I'm your target audience and you have everybody on this list. Who are you really talking to? Right. So that was like my initial answer from before, which still stands true to this day. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up for now is because the buzzword of the century, the algorithm, has changed completely. Like not even close to what it was before. Literally, the CEO of Instagram went on a podcast. The question was asked that they literally asked, "Do followers still matter today?" And this was a few months ago. And he said no. Like he literally said no. The algorithm is now not showing your content to your followers, but instead showing it to people who are resonating with your content more. So they are now putting in a lot of algorithm changes so that the content that you're producing, they're scanning it. Don't know exactly how the algorithm works, right? But it's like they're scanning it so that they know
Nobody
exactly what's in it.
It's this unexplainable.
Exactly. But this is kind of like the way that he explained it. It was basically like the followers don't matter. It's the content that you're producing, what it's about, because there's now like SEO into the algorithms, like baked in basically. And no matter what your number of followers is, we're going to share your content to the people that it matters to the most. And so, especially now, followers do not matter. And that comes literally from one of Meta's like CEO. So he probably knows the algorithm more than anybody else.
I think that's huge. And oh my gosh, no, we do need to have a whole conversation about this because that actually goes back to the authenticity piece and how you're showing up. Because if that's the game, because before it was like, get to X amount of followers and then you're untouchable, right? I personally know somebody, he's in the millions with his followers. We're an acquaintance, we're not friends, I'm not going to name drop. But it's like, yeah, it used to be the game, especially when you were getting paid per view or paid per follower with whatever the compensation programs and plans were. And so, yeah, you get your following up, you get in early and you get that wide net cast and you're untouchable, right? And now it sounds like based on that statement, they're like, no, we're more concerned with what you're saying and how people are going to interact with that than we are with the amount of followers you have on your checklist that now doesn't go anywhere. I think that's super inspiring. I'm really stoked about that, and I think we should talk about that and drill into that a little bit deeper another time, obviously, because now we're just going to swerve into a whole other topic versus the branding and marketing and social media piece. But yeah, we should drill in on that and just do a social media topic, because I think that's so cool, because it does come back to the brand. What are you trying to convey to the rest of the world? And it does come back to the marketing, and how are you showing up to convey that to the rest of the world?
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating, and I'm glad we did this. I'm gonna try to put it to a close, because I think obviously this was our first time doing it, which I think worked really well. So like maybe learning how to like start it, learning how to close it, and then also
Podcast style, but not a podcast.
yeah, like, you know, because it's like I feel like we could talk about everything. I do think that having the topic helped a lot, because then, you know, even when we were like that starting to diverge into just the social media, like now we were like, okay, like do followers matter, etc. I was like, oh, like in my head immediately I was like, this is a completely different topic, and I could talk about this for forever. And so it's like, let me answer high level your question, but like let me also like not answer it, because it's like it is a whole different topic. And I think it helped us a lot to like stay on track of like having that guiding light. Okay, I was like, all right, this is what we're going to talk about today. We can like diverge a little bit, but we don't go down like the rabbit hole, like or like our free conversation.
Like we normally do, yeah.
So this was really good. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, what did you think?
I thought it was good. I thought we were both going like speed round. I realized like you stop and take a breath and you're like, go. And I'm like, okay, here's my take on it. And then I'm like, okay, tag in, you go. I feel like we were like trying to run a marathon in the topics and content to cover, because there really is so much to cover. And maybe people who aren't in it aren't as passionate about it, and so it doesn't quite resonate. But I'm also looking for the people that it does resonate with, or the people that don't have the awareness, right? That's one of the reasons I wanted to create this content is, for me, social validation, in that people that don't know where to look, if one of these pieces hit, then I'm happy about it. You know, if 90% of it, they're like, I don't understand any of that and I don't care. Okay, cool. I just want you to find one piece of value in it. And if you can find one piece of value in it, that's enough for me. Like, that's what I'm trying to accomplish, at least for now. So maybe I'm setting the bar pretty low, but I'm pretty happy about it. I thought it was great. I personally thought it was a great conversation.
I love
gained a lot
it.
of value out of it.
I mean, to me, it's a great conversation with you. I do love talking with you. It's insane. Like, I feel like we could literally just go on forever. And I do think that what we've said has really resonated with me. Just a couple of things. I don't know why, but I'm super sleep deprived today. So sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck I was saying. So I apologize for that. I don't know why. I'm actually, and I've been on back-to-back meetings since I woke up. So it's like, literally, I'm just like running on like nothing right now. I don't even know how I actually made it through that. I didn't want to tell you beforehand because I was like, okay, I can do this. But yeah, I'm just like, my eyes right now are like super drowsy. The second thing is, what was I? And yeah, like I also like kept like thinking, okay, like what do I want to say next, and like trying to like store things in my head, and I'm like, my brain was not functioning today. The second thing is, I do love our conversations. Like I think like there's so many topics that we could just talk about for light years. I do think though that like one of the things that, because I was like trying to also like review it as we were going, I think one of the things that I loved about it is honestly, anything that comes out of your mouth is so good. I don't know why, but it's just like so fascinating. But two, and probably, you know, I mean, it's your job. It's like you consult people, you ask questions, you analyze things, and then you say things that, you know, sound really good, not just sound really good, but are really good. But it resonates here because I can feel it. I think one of the things that I really also loved outside of that is also like when we would actually give examples in so many regards. Like I think like when we got to like the point and ideas of like what makes something tangible, because that's what I love to, whenever I listen to something, it's like what can I take away from it that I can immediately start implementing. Like those are the things that I love. These are just mental notes. I'm also just talking, just because I really am like I don't know how I jumped onto to this. I literally have been in back-to-back meetings. I have not stopped since like
Like
9.
that's such a mental load. I have days like that, and
Yeah.
by the last meeting, I'm like, nope, I have no more words left.
I have plenty of words, I just don't know if they make sense.
Yeah, that's fair. I've been there too. Yeah.
So hopefully it wasn't so, yeah, insane for my end. And also, like I said, I've done podcasts before. And I think this one like had a more podcast feel to it than our normal talks. So it
It
made me
did.
like more nervous. I was just like, what am I supposed to say? Like, am I supposed to say this and that? And I actually loved it when you started commenting, like if I was talking and you would say something, I actually started loving it more then. Those are just my notes. Obviously, we can do whatever we want, but those are just my notes. I'm also just talking because I'm so sleep deprived.
Yeah, totally fair. No, I liked it too. Like I said, I feel like we went like hardcore, like lightning round.
Yeah.
And you and I can keep up with each other in that type of conversation. I think maybe if we were slightly more interactive, because it did kind of get podcast mode a little bit for me too, because I'm like, okay, I'm presenting here. Whereas normally when I'm just having a conversation, I'm like, ooh, let's talk about that topic.
Yeah.
And then I just, yeah, and I love asking questions because and it is because I tend to be in more of a consulting capacity. I'm starting to call it business therapy for people because I'm like, I'm kind of here to ask questions, and then based on your answers, then it's like, okay, here's what I think is going on, or we go a few more layers deep, which I like doing that. So if you're cool with that, that's kind of what I do actually. But I liked it. I thought it was a good first. I'm curious to see how things kind of crank out on the output, cleaned up version. What else was I going to say? I thought we did a pretty good job staying on topic for the most part. And I feel like variety is good too. And I like that you said, tangible takeaways because you're reading a book and somebody talks about a mogul like, I don't know, Henry Ford is usually the example, like in Think and Grow Rich, right? And it's like, okay, cool, but that doesn't give me like, how do I relate to that specifically? Like, okay, you're trying to highlight the tenacity that he had that was like, just go get it done, right? Build this motor this way. Okay, I can totally relate to that. But what does that mean in my business? Like, how do I do that? Do I just need to be mentally stubborn? Maybe, but if you're going the wrong direction, being mentally stubborn is not going to help you. You have to be sure that you're doing the right thing. Maybe that's a whole nother topic. I think now we're
Yeah.
just kind of spitballing future topic ideas.
Yeah, no, I loved it actually. And I mean, we can definitely, do you want to schedule the next one now? Or
Yeah,
how do you
let's do
want
it.
to do it?
No, let's do it. You want to shoot for next week?
Yeah, we can. Let's see. Oh,
That what we
next.
decided on? Weekly for now, or
Yeah, we can do that. Like we can yeah, we can do weekly because I am gonna take a break on the week of Thanksgiving. I will be home.
oh, that's
Uh,
good.
I was not planning to be home, but I will be home, and we have now decided that we were gonna go to our cousin's house in Georgia, and we are gonna drive, which is a 12-hour
Oh,
drive
wild. I'm gonna drive.
one
So you're
way.
gonna drive from Fort Worth to Georgia.
So I'm
That's
gonna take
crazy.
a bit of a break around that week. So yeah, let's
Totally fair.
schedule
The
for next,
holidays
and then
are kind of a black hole.
we'll take a break on the holidays, and then we can come back after the holidays.
When is Thanksgiving this year? Is that the 21st?
No, the 27th.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The T,
Yeah.
not the F. I'm looking at the wrong initial on my calendar.
If you have either Monday or Tuesday, those are my most free days.
You thinking the 17th or the 18th? Is that what
Yeah.
we're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Both are pretty open. Monday's actually wide open.
Okay.
You want to just
I
grab
mean, we
Monday
can,
again?
yeah, we can just do that. Do you just want to do the same time?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just update the invitation and just bump it
Yeah,
ahead a week.
that's what I
It
was
works for
gonna,
me.
just gonna duplicate it. Let me just do it now. I don't know why, but I don't trust my calendar sometimes. If I'm talking to somebody and I'm scheduling something, I'm like, you got it, right?
Right.
Oh, and
Well, lately,
we need a topic.
do you need a topic? Do we want to just swerve, or do we want a part two on this as far as like social media and authenticity, time? No, I say we swerve. If we build on
Yeah,
this, then it feels like a series. I don't really want to do that. I want to bring variety within a certain continuity, but not not just stair step, part 1, part 2, part 3. Actually, when I see that on a podcast or something, I'm like, this topic interests me, but I don't want to listen to part 1 first.
Yeah. No, I was
Speaking of
gonna say swerve.
time collateral.
Because
Yeah,
I'm definitely the
attention
kind
span.
of person that's like, this is a conversation, and the way that we've always had our conversation has always been very swervy anyway. So I think it should stay, you know, we use the word authentic. I think it should stay true to us as well. It's like all of our conversations are very all over the place. The only reason that we put a topic together is so that we actually do what we preach, which is,
Yeah,
you know, like not be all over the place. But other than that, I enjoy our very candid conversation. So I definitely agree on swerving. I even agree on I read it, I didn't write it by you, but like, I even think of doing like maybe even a different format, either one that would make us conversate a bit more, or maybe one where maybe one of us asks more questions than others. We also have the hot seat. Like I feel like a completely different take. That way we can also see and experiment, because that's the way that I do it with my clients as well. It's like when it comes to social media first, it's like, I mean, I'm sure you probably do it with your clients as well, maybe, is we really reiterate a lot of things. Like we will say, okay, we experiment with this, we experiment with this, we experiment with this. We have different like pillar content as well. So if we stick with
hmm
the same one, it's like it's the same pillar content. Whereas like if we do something different, it's like we would have those pillar contents, and then I can actually create like an actual strategy for the two of us, rather than just like, okay, here's a real episode and a real episode and a real episode. It actually has like a format. Because the thing is, even with these, what we're creating right now, the way I'm gonna have it is I'm not gonna have you release, okay, this was the first episode, because these are reels. I'm gonna cut them up so that um you're releasing them almost scattered. Like it's not going
Yeah,
to be like, oh, this first episode you're going to release everything from the first episode, and then the second episode, no, it's like you're going to have so much content on the back end that you're going to start mix and matching them, and then they're going to have their own content pillars as well.
yeah.
So it's good to sort it, but I didn't
Break
give
it
this
up.
a so
Like it. I like it. So let's what's something you're just curious about currently, either in your business or just that you're seeing? It doesn't even have to relate to like client anecdotes, because we talked a lot about that and I thought that was really good. But I think now let's do through our personal lens and perspectives, like drill in
mm,
on that a little bit. Like, and if we have client analogies, great. We're just personal analogies, great. Use them, right? I talk in story a lot. But if we don't, then like I keep calling it the abyss of the internet. And I'm not saying we use this as a topic, but I, for some reason, keep seeing the contrast a lot, because people are like, well, you know, I was in a business forum last week and everybody was talking about all their should do's. Well, this is what I should do, and this is what this person told me, and this consultant was pressuring me to sign up for a $10,000 engagement, and and I was like, wow, like these are conversations and pressures that people are still feeling. And then I flash back to remembering, like, yeah, when I was starting stuff and trying to research it, I didn't find any better than what they're working on, right? So just having a real back and forth conversation, I think is super cool. So I guess that kind of aligns with the hot seat idea a little
I like
bit.
that. I think actually, when you were talking, I had an idea, because you said, "What are you curious about?" And then and then I did think about it, because there were some things that I wanted to ask you, but I think we can try like a more less formal hot seat where we just like talk to each other. Let me know what you think about this, because it's just coming up in my head. I don't know if it's a good idea or
Liking it
not.
so far.
But it would be almost like a very informal hot seat where we ask each other questions of things that we're just curious about. From like, even for me, I still have branding questions. Like I wanted to ask you a while ago, right? Like I said, it took me 3 years to do our brand and whatever, but what is there a right time? Like did I do it at the right time, or should it have been earlier? And then you can ask, like, okay, like at what stage of business you were in, blah blah blah. And then obviously you asked about like follower things a while ago. Like I guess it's just more like curious questions of like what it will be a little bit more all over the place, but I think the overlying question is, what are like questions that business owners have in mind in regards to branding and marketing slash social media, or social media, that it's kind of like a Reddit style. Like it's like, what are the
Yeah,
questions you would ask on Reddit as like as a business owner starting out, right? And then we kind of just like, I don't know, answer as much of that as possible. It's a bit messy. It is going to be
no,
messy,
I
but
like
I
it.
think I really wanted to do a completely different style, because I also want to see what we like. Like, do we like this style? Do we like that style? Can we still have like an overlying theme, even if it is a little bit messy? So let me know if you like that.
No, I like that a lot. That actually aligns with something I'm kind of building in the background anyway. So that actually aligns a lot, like the questions that people don't know where to get answers to and where to ask. And that's actually one of the fundamental pieces that I built my business on, is being somebody that in my lane at least can help be a resource to answer those questions. And it's not that I'm any sort of all-knowing authority in the world of business or branding or, you know, operations and how you're doing your business, but that's something that we don't talk about a lot. We don't talk about what we don't know. And a lot of times we're afraid to ask, because also on the Reddit style of things, if you ask a question, you're either going to get really helpful answers or you're going to get absolutely destroyed. And I want to actually create and open up an environment where it is more of that. Like, you have questions, then put it out there and have resources for people to answer. And as you and I do this more, I would love to bring on more people that can help answer those questions outside what you and I do, because I think that's such an important piece of this whole thing. So I would love to test that out for the next, because that already aligns with something that already aligns with my business and some aspirations I have and directions I want to take it. So I think it's a great idea. And so it's a little ironic that you said that. Well, I guess it's not really, but no, it fits. And that's, I say we run with it, because that's basically what I'm illustrating when I say the great void that is the internet. Because people are like, well, just Google how to do it. It's like, you don't know what you're asking, so you don't know what you're searching for. And if you don't know what you're searching for, you're overwhelmed by this mountain of information that is also like really shallow information too, because everybody's gatekeeping because they want to sell you something. So we could talk about that too, but we'll save that for another time. But yeah, let's do it. Let's do the Q&A, and is there or isn't there a right time, and the how might. So it's like a how might we.
How what?
A how might we question, like how might we make this better, or how might we achieve X. There's a catchier hook for that, but that's from a design standpoint. That's a design fundamental question. It's called the how might we question.
Okay. I did send it, but I have to update because I put number 1 as well. Okay. I wrote down everything that you said. But yeah, this is amazing. Like, I really, really loved everything. I sent it to you. Well, this was so great. I will work on cutting that up. It might take a bit of time. I might have to take the last conversation, this conversation, the conversation for next week, and just spend the holidays kind of doing it. So just give me a bit of time, just because we're just so insane right now as well. But I will definitely, for sure, before end of November, I will have those cut up, and then just kind of like have a better strategy for you as well, because at some point I want to have you on a hot seat. I just want to have a little bit more things put together on our end, like how we do this, and yeah, all that stuff. So
I like it. Yeah, for sure. And you know, tag me in. I don't expect you to do all the heavy lifting on stuff. So if there's something I can be working on as well, let me know, because I really want to collaborate on it like we're doing. So as convenient as that is to just be like, hey, you take it and run with it, and then deliver it back to me all wrapped up in a nice little package with a bow on top, is super convenient, but not necessarily the goal.
I will do that. I will keep that in mind. It's just we do it for everybody. It's like done for you service. It's like, no, I'm just kidding.
That's cool, and I get that, because I'm not as in the done for you capacity, but you know, in the spirit of collaboration, however we can work on the back and forth, I'm here for it.
I will definitely do that. I will let you know. I will run it through Opus, and then that will be the first start, and then I will let you know what we can collaborate on, even on the back end, especially as we start putting out the content. It's just I want to have also enough content before we even start releasing them. There is definitely a plan and a strategy to what we do. We don't just here's videos, go have at it. Like, terrible.
Here's a bunch of clips, go make a mess. Have fun, kids.
Yeah. So the only thing I ask of you is wear something different every time. Or just
yeah, no, I noted that from a previous meeting. Believe it or not, this shirt is blue, because I feel like I'm always wearing a black shirt whenever we talk. And I was like, oh, I'll wear a blue shirt. You can't tell. It looks like a black t-shirt.
Next time, like, I don't know, maybe white. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, something with a stark contrast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. Well, thank you, Brady. This was so fun. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. And yeah, get some rest.
Perfect. I'll see you next week.
Take
Bye.
care, guys. Bye.